So in this video today, we're going to cover Everyone Loves a Story, and everyone loves especially a failure story, because as coaches, we're not perfect. We failed way more times than we've succeeded. But I guess the difference between us and the average Joe is we don't try and protect it by our ego. We wear it warts and all, like a virulent type of herpes all over our body. Pre getting into this stuff, I went to a university called Nottingham. I'd never done a cold approach before. I was studying history. And I remember seeing in the lecture theatre this like really cute brunette girl. And I remember one time we kind of caught eyes, right, for a split second. And I didn't know anything about game, but I was like, oh, like on an instinctual level, maybe there's something there, you know? So in classic massive approach anxiety fashion, it took me 3 months to actually pluck up the courage to approach her. And I was thinking, fuck, you know, when you build it up to that degree, there's so much internal pressure. So Nottingham as a campus unit, it's all in one kind of big field thing. You've got the lecture theatres, you've got where we stay, and you've got like some shops in there as well. So I was kind of absent-mindedly one day, about 3 months later. I'd seen her a couple of times in the lectures, but I hadn't had the courage to approach her. And I saw her, I was like, oh, is that her? She was at a magazine stand facing away in the local shop, like local news agent where you can buy stuff like, you know, back in the day, cigarettes and gum and food and stuff like that. And I was like, fuck, now's the moment. So all this internal pressure from 3 months of not approaching was building up. So I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was just like, fuck it, I've got to go for it. So I went in and she was standing there. I remember tapping her on the shoulder and she turned around with it and she kind of recognized me and she had this expectant look on her face. And I just kind of frog in my throat. I couldn't think what to say. So all I could come out with was awkwardly, I've been watching you. Pause. And then she's looking concerned. I went, for 3 months. And I've never seen a woman so scared. She literally went like this, ran out the store, never saw her again. I think she left the university. Never saw her again in the lectures. It was a 4-year course. She never again went to the lectures. So I think I scared her off. It was fucking embarrassing, man. And there was a whole there was 2 old women behind there, like it was a small shop, 2 old women behind the counter, some guys there just pissing themselves in the corner. I was just like, oh no. The walk of shame out of the shop. Just like went back to the house, a really sad kind of wank looking at the ceiling. Just like, fuck my life, you know. So moral of the story is
it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter because awkward situation plus time always equals funny story. So I remember at the time just feeling that was horrendously awkward. But the reality is, life carries on. It doesn't fucking matter because it's in the past. You're the only one that's actually party to it most of the time, right? So it's only in your head that we're the only animals in the world that will beat ourselves up for past mistakes, even if we're the only ones to witness those mistakes, right? So it's just, not taking it too seriously, not giving a fuck, and actually seeing almost reveling in the awkwardness. And a kind of micro way to apply this is, we always know there's going to be those moments of tension on in the approach or on dates, right? Usually when you're asking for the phone number, there's that crack and she kind of looks at you. Can you hold the tension? When you're going for the kiss on the first date, can you hold the tension? When you ask her to come into your place, can you hold the tension? So it's almost, instead of running away from those awkward moments, because sexual tension is inherently awkward, it's knowing it's going to be awkward and leaning into it and being like, you know what? I'm going to revel in this. I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to bear the pressure and put it on her. So yeah, I mean, that was probably not the most embarrassing I've ever had, but at the time, because I was in massive scarcity, I didn't know how to cold approach. I was like, oh, fuck, this is awful, man. Awful. Anything you can think of, awkwardness-wise?
So it's hard to follow this up on, James. This is a good one.
No, whatever's relevant to you. That's...
Well, I remember, this was a few years ago, and so we're in this small bar, right? A lot of people packed, people are watching each other, and what I thought was...
Was this in the Netherlands?
Yeah, this was in the Netherlands. And kind of standing a little bit on the side with a friend, and I saw this guy pass by 2 girls, and I kind of saw him talking for a few seconds, and he kind of had like a sad face, and he left. So I went to the girls, I was like, what do you do to him? Like, he's crying now. And they're like, no, we were very polite to him. And I was like, instead of me thought it was funny, they didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And they were really offended. And I was like, okay, so I was kind of digging from that point on my own grave. It was like, no, but I was continuing on the topic, trying to rationalize. And the more I talked about it, the more they got really pissed off at me. It's like, no, we were really nice. Who are you? Who the fuck are you? And at a certain point, they got really mad, like, fuck off, man.
Really?
Yeah. Get the fuck out of here. Who are you? I was like, all right, I've got too big of an ego or whatever you like to call it. I'm not going to completely go away. I'm like, turned slightly around to my friend, like, mate. And he's like, what happened? He's like, he saw my face. I'm like, did you see a ghost? What the fuck happened, mate? I'm like, it's okay. Just let me stand there. I'm not going to walk away. I don't want to show quote unquote weakness. That like, I literally listened to them, but I was like in shock. I was like, what the hell?
It seems like a kind of overreaction from them, right?
Yeah, they took it very personally. Like me being playing for fun, thinking it was playing for fun. Them like, no, we're being really nice. And me just trying to prove my point. And they're like, oh no, now you're gonna get it. You know, you're really just trying to get like you're digging yourself your own grave. Should switch the topic or like, fuck, it is what it is. And I'm literally pushing you away and just fuck off, man. It was something I didn't experience or hadn't experienced yet.
It's quite extreme when you hear women speaking in that manner, isn't it? It's very rare you get that in non-Anglo. I mean, the Netherlands is similar to the UK, where women are unfortunately they have a certain attitude a lot of the time.
100%.
You would never get that in Russia or Ukraine.
No.
Very feminine women, right? So they're probably quite masculine as
they
well.
They don't give a shit. I could feel like I was everybody was watching me. Right?
Oh no!
And that was the feeling. Like, it's like, what the fuck?
It's the pressure cooker, isn't it? Of being judged socially. But again, if we can not give a fuck, right, about other people's opinions, because ultimately other people's opinions, who gives a shit?
It doesn't matter.
It's not our reality, right?
No, it doesn't matter.
But because we're tribal animals, it's an evolutionary thing of like, back in the day, you get kicked out of the tribe, you're dead. Our brain hasn't caught up to the fact that's not reality anymore, right? But it still operates from the same paradigm.
100%. So it was like, at the end we left like 5 minutes later. I was like, I'm done, man.
Oh no, the walk of shame out of the place.
Yeah, the walk of shame.
Not even just end the conversation, you're walking out of the place.
Yeah. So we walked out. And now I think it's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
But it took time. Well, you already said, like, it takes time to kind of understand it. I think actually, I'm fine. It's fine. But I think that was the
also hard not to take it personally, even though you probably could have been any dude, and maybe they just wanted to make an example out of you, right? Or just whatever, because it's so easy to take stuff personally. It's very rarely personal.
100%. I think it was one of the first time I actually got like, with guys you can get aggressive and you kind of understand the positioning. But when you think you're being relatively innocent from a girl's perspective, and she gets aggressive towards you, and it's not that you're touching some like place which you shouldn't be doing.
Sure.
But the wording of that,
it's quite extreme, isn't it? 0 to 100.
Yeah. So that was something new. But the moral of that story, it's the same message, right? Doesn't matter. It's all fun. And actually you really enjoy it, and you go through like these phases, which is really good. Or these things you need to go through. Otherwise you can ask yourself, have I been pushing the envelope if I haven't gotten like some of these reactions? And for me, maybe the answer is no, you haven't, right? You have to really also get these ones in your portfolio of approaches.
Especially night game where you've got maybe alcohol, substances involved.
100%.
You're more likely to get wild and wacky reactions. Like I've had drinks thrown on me, and I've been glassed by guys, admittedly, not girls, but you get way more violent reactions at night than later.
So it was just one night out in Wetherspoons in Nottingham. With
Spoons, Lloyd's, with a crystal ball.
Yeah. Well, whenever we go on this topic, it's weird because I always say I can't remember rejection stories. It's kind of true because I've been rejected so many millions of times that it all blurs into one in the end. And
there's a good story that maybe you want to touch on.
No, I've got one to tell, but it's just I'm just making the point. And I mean, and also, you know, when you get to my age and you know you've indulged in as many things as I've indulged in, the old memory isn't as good anyway. But in a way, that's a good thing because like you want to get to a point. I think when you start this process, or when you're young, as like with your story, rejection does seem like this incredibly big deal.
Massively.
And it seems like this, oh my god, this existential threat to your. And in fact, when I was even younger, like late teenagers, I would never even be able to ask a girl out because the thought of having a rejection was so. I thought, oh my god, the earth will shatter if I get rejected. I just won't be able to handle it. And then you get into this, you get rejected all the time, and you realise it doesn't matter to the extent that it's actually quite difficult to remember rejection stories. And a lot of the time, rejections are not that harsh anyway. I mean, we've got some funny examples here, but a lot of the time it's more like, oh yeah, so I've got a boyfriend, or yeah, I'm not interested, I'm really busy at the moment. It's usually stuff like that. It doesn't really even register, and you forget about it the next, few hours later. But I do remember this one time, a couple of years ago in Mexico, Tulum, when I had the unfortunate experience of having to share intimate accommodation with Mr. M, because Tulum was really booked out, and so myself and Mr. M.
Were you sharing a room or a bed?
We were sharing four.
Well,
I can't. I mean, what?
Were you wearing clothes or were you not?
What? I can't reveal too much. What happened in Tulum stays in Tulum, but we were sharing what was effectively a tree house in this sort of like eco lodge type thing in Tulum, and Yeah, and we were doing some filming. Mr. M was working with us quite frequently at the time. You know, good guy. He has not worked with us much recently, but he's at the time he was. And we were doing some filming, and he wanted to get infields, and he was asking me to do approaches. And sometimes in a situation like that where you're doing it more for the purpose of the camera rather than for the actual, you're interested in the girl. So Mr. M pointed out this girl walking down the street in Tulum, and she was decent looking, but not really my type. Not really necessarily an approach I would have made had it just been down to my own volition. But Mr. M, because he wanted to get footage, was like, no, go on, man. So I went in and I was like, hey, listen, I've got a, usual thing. You look really cute. Had to come and say hi. I knew I'd regret it if you didn't. She's like, oh, geez, that's really nice. And it turns out she's Australian, which is,
red flag.
Bad news already. And I'm just like, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember a little bit about what I'm forward. I was just saying to them, yeah, I'm traveling. I've been here for a while. It's really cool, blah, blah, blah. You look like this kind of girl. Yeah, well, I'm actually quite, I'm a digital nomad. I travel around, whatever the conversation was. And I was like, you know what? I'm actually staying in Tulum at the moment. I've just got to go and meet my friend. He's over there, but we should definitely meet up for drinks another time. So let's exchange WhatsApp. Usual kind of way to close off a conversation. And she gave me the shoulder pat of shame. She's like, oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. That's so nice, but no. And I was just like, because it was kind of one of those kind of like, she's sort of trying to be nice, but semi-patronizing rejections. But the thing that made it worse was that I wasn't even that into her anyway. It was just because I was doing it because Mr. Emma told me to. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Then walked off. And I was just in such a bad mood there with Mr. Emma. I was like, for fuck's sake, man. So that one's quite memorable because I think sometimes it's weird. Sometimes the ones that sting more are the ones where A, you weren't that invested, but you did it anyway for some reason, or B, they're not actually the vitriolic ones. If they throw a drink over you or something, that's actually quite a funny story. But the sort of pitying ones are kind of the
where
they're
not taking your sperm serious as a sexual threat.
Yeah. It's like you're not even
in
you're not.
arena.
It's like you weren't even on the radar as a genetic possibility.
Yeah.
It was like a little puppy dog came up to her and like asked her on a date. It's like, oh, that's so cute,
It's actually worse as well. We always encourage clients to pick the girls they find attractive and go in, because typically when you get thrown in, I don't like it, right? And I'll do it for camera sometimes, because you haven't really owned the whole thing. I think it's the universe kind of not rewarding you, being like, you fucking bitched out and now someone's throwing you in, right? You're almost going to get a bad reaction. Well, so we try, obviously we'll throw clients in, but the more you can identify the women you want, even if you're out on a coaching session with us, and claim it, the more likely it is to succeed.
Well, I think that's why the ones, and we always say this to clients, but just in general, I think the ones where you're actually viscerally attracted to her are the ones that are more likely to go well, even though sometimes they can seem like the more daunting ones because the stakes seem higher. But actually, sometimes they go often they go better because on some kind of DNA level, the girl knows that you're into it, and it's real and it's authentic. If you're doing it, even if she's attractive, but she's just not your vibe, and you do it, on some level, I think she can sense that, or on some level, it's just not. The whole thing is a bit inauthentic, and I think that comes through. So,
it's a very good point.
Yeah. So one lesson from that is, firstly, the rejection doesn't matter because it was a bit. It was annoying at the time. But I mean, who cares, right? I'm still alive. It doesn't really, you got
to go back to the treehouse with Mr. M.
Yeah. I got to go back to
No big deal.
Mr. M with his. Shirtless with his many gold chains on. It was a memory ever imprinted in my mind. But
his substitute maths teacher shirt with the gangster chains.
Yeah. There's a sort of Brooks Brothers, junior sort of banker shirt on, and then underneath like 5 gold chains. So. What was the other thing about it? It just doesn't matter. You forget about these things pretty soon afterwards, and you've just got to take the shots, and sometimes it's not going to go well, but it doesn't. The thing is, one person's opinion, one single human being's opinion is irrelevant, because whatever that girl's opinion of me is it's statistically irrelevant, because there's however many billion people on the planet, 4 billion women on the planet.
Mark Manson said it accurately, the guy who wrote Sir Lionel Giving a Fuck, who originally was a dating coach, wrote a very good book called Models. You cannot be a hero to one girl without being a total joke to another.
Yeah.
And again, we're not one way. So sometimes you go out and you're just not really feeling it. You get blown from pillar to post by women. Sometimes you absolutely own it. So it's just consistency, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why we encourage guys to track the numbers.
Yeah.
Because if guys actually approach 30 women running game where the girl is younger and hotter, the chances are, unless you're a total retard or you're really off the ball, you're going to get some result from that.
Yeah, because you could get a bad reaction, you know, but
And then
you know, 2 minutes later, you could be talking to a girl. She just thinks you're God's gift, and it's very.
And we both had it in night game where we've had 7 or 8 blowouts, and then we'll take a girl home on the 9th approach.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't matter. It's your ability to not carry the past into the present and keep going and leverage momentum and just be like treat every girl as a separate entity because they're not connected, right?
Yeah.
Maybe to add on to that, what I notice, and I like to frame it from sports, right? I think those rejections or those bad moments, they become a really good catalyst for having success.
I actually like a couple of rejections.
Yes.
It spurs me on to be like, right, fuck this, actually. I'm going to...
It's a weird thing. I don't know what had happened. I heard Uros tell the story about him at the end of the day succeeding. He got the biggest blow after he wanted to leave the venue, didn't, stayed in there, and actually went home with a girl.
Right? Yeah.
So, and it doesn't surprise me, actually. It's the weirdest thing, but I've also had that. So and we all probably can resonate with the weirdest start of the day, or even a month's time, and suddenly you're killing it after. So it's just the thing to stick with it. That's what we're saying. Stick with it, accept it, embrace it.
And again, not running away from rejection, realizing it's part of the game. It's always going to be there. You know, good success stats. We've always talked about this. 1 in 3 approaches a phone number. 10 phone numbers, 2 dates. Sleep with 1 out of the 2 dates. That means every 30 women we approach, if the girls are younger and hotter, 29 times out of 30, it's not working out. But if you're falling in love with the process and enjoying socializing and seeing it as a game to level up your social skills, it doesn't matter. If you put the parameter of, I have to fuck 30 girls out of 30, you're going to fail every time, right? Yeah. So it's putting the wrong parameters of success in, you know?
Indeed, absolutely.
If you resonate with any of this, get in touch, info@jamestusk.com or troy@realtroyfrancis.com or lawrence@labia.com. And we will see you in the next video.